Dick Cavett is with us tonight. Dick is a friend. We're both from Nebraska. And Dick was once a writer on The Tonight Show, believe it or not. I don't know whether that's a memorable time in his life. Matter of fact, we've been on so long, everybody was once a writer on the show. The couple that was just out here, I forgot to mention, used to be writers on The Tonight Show. He's been on television, I think, since about 1968, and currently has a show, as you know, on PBS. He has a new book called Eye on Cavett, which is a rather candid account of things that have happened, some serious, some amusing. Would you welcome, please, Mr. Dick Cavett?
Thank you, Doctor.
We have themes for everybody. We don't want anybody to miss a residual. How you been?
Very fine.
I don't know if you heard the introduction about you being a writer on The Tonight Show, and I said, I'm not sure that that was a memorable period in your life. How would you appraise that?
It was, however. I remember how I got that job, really. I had gone off and I'd written for you for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I first wrote for you, and I doubt if you'd remember this, and even under regression hypnosis, for an Emmy show.
I'm under hypnosis now, as a matter of fact. Yes.
Well, maybe you recall. Oh, I got to tell you this. I met a transsexual in New Orleans, and I'll get back to that. Yeah, it's a section of my book that's raised a number of eyebrows about the silicone breasts.
Oh.
And one of them got under a very hot light and ended up at 34 long. How'd the monologue go?
Real good. They don't know. They're thinking you don't know that I did that.
They're thinking I know. No, I remember. Do you know? Now you'll have to swear I hadn't prepared this, but
Okay.
I remember the first line you ever did of mine that you got a laugh with.
Okay.
Fortunately, it was the first day I worked for you and had a monologue, as opposed to 6 weeks later. But you had come back from Vegas, and you mentioned that.
Mm-hmm.
And you said, I like it in Las Vegas. By the way, Las Vegas, spelled sideways, is salvages. You said, that may not be too funny, but there's an old man in New Hampshire who's saying, do more anagrams.
Yeah?
Is there anyone from New Hampshire here tonight? Now, what I've obviously just given is a lesson in how it depends on who says the joke, how well it goes over.
Occasionally you did go for the esoteric line occasionally.
Now and again, yeah.
You see, and which is very
That's
nice,
right.
but you have to assume everybody knows all of the elements involved.
Yeah, metaphysical humor closes even before Saturday night.
Didn't you do once line? Was it your line that you wrote about the bust of, you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I did.
Can I tell that? It was
You
a very,
remember
I think I remember. You didn't write it for me. I think you wrote it for Jack Parr, if I remember.
I wrote it, yeah, and he rejected it, and Hugh Downs did it, because...
That's right. There is a famous painting I think the Metropolitan bought, and it's called Aristotle Contemplating the Bust of Homer.
Correct.
Well-known painting. They paid millions for it. It was all in the paper. And you took that and wrote an atrocious but good pun about Buster Keaton, who apparently was looking for a home, a place to live in Hollywood, right?
Yeah, that's right. Formerly owned by Mr. Onassis.
Yes, and Aristotle Onassis was looking at the house, and it was Aristotle contemplating the home of Buster. Which was to get there, you have to take a long day's journey into nowhere, but it was very, I remember that.
That goes over very big at the library.
Yes, sir.
How quickly can we get there?
Where were you at noon today? You were supposed to,
I
picked up the Los Angeles Times today, and I said, gee, I'm going to run down there because my friend Dick is down at Doubleday or somewhere.
It's the oh, Lord, what is the name? Maybe someone can yell it out to me. It's the big store downtown.
Broadway.
The Broadway.
The Broadway. You were supposed to be there today.
It's tomorrow, and I misread the ad, as apparently you did, and thought I was supposed to be there today, and I mentioned it on a morning show.
Right.
And
You've done another show before this one today?
The fact that you showed up and stood in line to get my book signed for 2 hours, I'm very embarrassed about it.
You've done another show today before this one?
I have done something like 4. You have no idea how many people are doing shows under your very nose.
You are certainly being greedy, aren't you? Grabbing all of this stuff and then paying it off with a nighttime visit. No.
Well, I'm hustling books. My co-author has several children to put through school and that sort of thing. My book is not ghost-written, by the way.
Yeah.
Do you know when I first broke you up on the air?
No.
I think you could recall. I was on here. I was so far down by that time that only McMahon was between me and nowhere. You know how Ed moves down and the guest moves down. And at the end, you say to everybody, what are you doing? I'm working at the Westbury Fair. And so when your series starts, I had nothing to plug. And you said, what are you doing? And I quickly thought, I got to have a joke. I said, I'm working on an idea for a comedy series. Thinking, it's a humorous version of Gilligan's Island.
I I do remember.
And you did that wonderful breakup where you went off the chair, and someone got a still photo of that, and I have it. And it was quoted by Earl Wilson the next day as a comedy version of Gilligan's Island, which just takes the edge off slightly, doesn't it?
Earl is not known for exactly transposing the original joke onto print.
You remember that thing Groucho said about Earl, about the other fellow, Leonard Lyons? So the only way to get him to print a joke right is to tell it to him wrong.
That's right. That'll come out great. We'll take a break and we'll be right back, folks.
Okay.
Stay where you are. We're back talking with Dick Cavett about his book, Eye on Cavett. I got your book yesterday.
Oh, did
and
you?
Went through it. Yeah, I enjoyed a lot of sections in it. I enjoyed, of course, being from Nebraska.
Yeah.
Your 20th high school reunion, because I went back to Norfolk, as you know, some time ago and did a special on going back home.
Yeah.
And they say you can't go home. Thomas Wolfe, I can say, you can't go home if you expect it to remain like it was. And I got the feeling you felt a little bit awkward because people know you.
Yes.
Because you've been in the public eye for a number of years, and they all recognize you as they did me. But on the other hand, they think that you have been in constant contact with them also, and you may not have seen them for 20 or 30 years.
Yeah,
so
and
it
they're
becomes somewhat
disappointed
awkward.
that you don't recognize them immediately,
Yeah.
and that you feel kind of sorry about it. And did you feel the same thing I did, that you wanted to kind of go back home and see people as they would be if you weren't famous, but by being famous and having a recognizable face, it altered everything, so you could
I
never
think
really
so.
get a... That's called the Heisenberg effect in science, I think.
Oh.
I'm not sure. That goes along with the Aristotle joke. But it is true. But I think it's an electron telescope. You can't ever see a thing without altering it by looking at it. But I found that I had all the cliche reactions of a reunion. You probably noticed that ladies who were desperation dates when you were a kid had become quite attractive now, and sometimes vice versa.
Also, the ones you thought were, Miss Pom Pom with a baton, all of a sudden is...
Yeah.
I'm Becky. No, kidding. Oh.
Miss Pom Pom is now Miss Bass Drum.
Yes, but they probably...
Well, there was that, and there was the fellow I mistook for his father. I thought, well, nice to bring your father to reunion, a guy who looked very different.
Did you feel that you were younger than most of the people, or that they were older than you were?
Yeah.
Or hoped that...
They thought I hadn't aged. And I also, it seemed like my class had an age range of from 30 to 60, even though we were all, by definition, the same age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What bothers you most? I get the feeling, and I think it's true, because I get the same feeling at times, that you feel uncomfortable being in the public eye.
Yes.
Embarrassed by sometimes the attention that we get, the very fact we are in front of the public. Sometimes we feel that, hey, I'm the same person I was there. I haven't really changed basically, but it becomes a situation you have to deal with.
Yeah, and yet there's something that looms over you while they're talking to you that's bigger than you in some way. I find fame... You and I talked about this once in your office. About you were going to go to something, and then you said, I don't really know if I can go, though, with this face.
I rented another face that night.
Well,
It went anyway.
But I thought, I thought, oh, it must be awful. But yet I thought, I envied you, so I thought, God, wouldn't it be great to have everybody recognize you everywhere you go? And it is sometimes, but it's like the Midas touch, if you could turn it off.
Right.
I know you told once about a guy who, I think, put his arm around your neck. You were seated at a table, dragged you about 12 feet backwards to say hello to his pustule-covered sister at a party or something.
Well, it was worse than that. I remember exactly what it was. I couldn't remember him. He didn't tell me who he was.
Yeah.
And he says, my sister doesn't believe you know me. And took me.
Yeah.
Now, all the way across the room, I know I'm going to be confronted with his sister, who says, she doesn't believe you know me. And I didn't know who it was.
Yeah.
And to this day, I don't know how I feigned some kind of, got a case of the vapors or something.
Yeah,
And, it was awful.
And as I remember, you pointed out that when you did meet her, she had a face that would stop sundial. You've probably forgotten that part. But are you too good to have a drink with me? That's the one that, maybe you've had a drink and they want you to have another one. And are you too good to have a drink with me? I had one on it's nice when Sophia Loren recognizes you on the street.
Isn't that sweet?
But when a drunken woman on the metro liner in stretch pants, that look like she's been dipped in some color rather than extra, comes over, sits on the lap of your chair, and her breath would kill cactus at 20 paces.
Kill cactus?
Yeah, you remember her? And it's just, it's awful because then they go into that thing about, well, I watch you, and so you owe me this. And you want to say, because you see me does not mean you have bought a ticket to my private life. That's not what you want to say, but that's what you think.
Speaking of breath, who did that one? You talk about lines in your favorite lines of Fred Allen and Groucho and George Kaufman and some of your favorites. Who was it that did the lines? His breath was so strong. Sounds like Fred Allen. It would start the windmill on an old Dutch painting. That's in there somewhere.
That's a classic.
We'll take a break. We're coming back. Sounds like Fred, doesn't it?